Okay, so here we are for the last installment of the vlogs for my website production. I've had a very interesting day in regards to trying to get all these things to work. One of the main issues that took me about an hour trying to figure out was the fact that here, if we go onto my web page, you'll see that this font here is different to the size here. All the other pages are quite okay, and the little logo here looks good. As soon as I go home, suddenly it goes bigger. So what I did is I actually I went into my code and I copied out the headers out of the contact form, for example. I copied all of this and then pasted it into a copied version of the index file. And while it was called index.copy, it worked. And then so I deleted my index and then changed the index copy to index, and I hit save, and I came back in here into the web page, and oh woe betide, here it was again. Out of the blue, after about an hour, I realized it's a simple hold of control and a downward scroll on the mouse, and oh look at that, it fixes it. Somehow even clearing the cache doesn't actually clear the memory of how you were zoomed in on that page. So that was a trap for young players, and I'm willing to put my hand up and say I was definitely stuck there. Anyway, what I actually decided, one of the things that I decided to do, which is a bit of an advancement to what we were taught, is make this nav bar sticky. So now it stays on the top. My client here, Robert, he actually liked the look of other websites that did that, so I thought, sweet, I'll do that. Now, everything was fine. I was thinking, yes, winning, this is great. And there was an issue, and that when I made it sticky, the problem was that this element here and this element here shot up underneath the nav bar. And the way that I actually handled that is I went into BSS adjustments here, and I did this compensate nav bar here. And all that actually does is it's a bit crude, but basically it's just creating a block. It's just creating a block that sits above the element that I'm trying to push down. So we are in index there. So if I come home, for example, with that compensate nav bar taken out, you'll see that pushes up under there, and that does it for everything. So basically the height of this here, of the nav bar, I've just compensated here, and I believe it's about 100 or 80 pixels. There you go. So that does that. So I was very happy with that, and I thought, yeah, that works. Everything lines up nicely, so I was quite happy. I was about ready to zip it up when I came across this problem, and that is that when we go into here, for example, we have this scrolling menu, so you can zip to these different offerings: activate, energize, food bank. Now when we click one of these, it doesn't actually go to it, and that's because this play group here, which is supposed to be preschool, is going up to the top of the page again. Once you set this nav bar as sticky, for some reason it changes all the relevance of the page. I worked around relatives and absolutes and played around for hours on it, and I found this very easy solution, and that is this little piece of code here. So all I've done is I've just adjusted the margin and the padding here of the top, and I've made this an ID called nav adjust, and then in where the ID is being called, or the bookmark is being called, which is here, name equals playgroup, I've just added the ID nav adjust, and all that does is it pulls this bookmark down, or in this case, sorry, up, causing the page to come down. And so when that is actually on, when that CSS is on, now you can see that I click food bank, and food bank sits just here perfectly where I want it to. This is 80 pixels, and so it's coming down 100 pixels in the CSS there. So that was the way around that. Now, when it comes to all my little bits of additional add-ons that we've got in the contact here a map. Now this map is obviously where Nelson Baptist Church is. Also, when it scales, it doesn't cut off. It works well for scale, which is good. So that was something that I had to work around to make that work. We've got the prayer contact request here again, which scales very nicely. Now the cool thing with this is that when people fill this out and they hit send, they hit submit here, what that actually does is this goes back to a Google Sheets form, and it's recorded. What I then did is I actually added a pre-existing piece of code that I found online to it, and what that allows me to do is then come in here and I can go to settings and I can define what I want to be sent off to my client. So here I'd put the client's email in, and if I wanted to, you could add in and adjust the form so people can decide who it goes to. And then here is some basic, almost HTML on how you want that to be laid out. So what this means is that every time someone makes a submission on that form on here, what it's actually going to do is populate this, and then this is going to email out to the client. So that was an addition that I had to add in, and that obviously we haven't been taught about. Another thing that I've actually done here is on the nav bar at the bottom, or the footer bar, what I've done is I've added the ability to press this on mobile and it will go straight to the phone and actually call off the phone, which is another addition. A further addition that I've made is I've actually taken out my logo that was down here, because the idea was the logo was there, you click on it and you go to my web development website. Well, I don't have a web development website, so other than that advertising just sitting there kind of getting into the back of your mind without you knowing it, basically what I've done is I've swapped it out for these. Now these are an iframe plugin, and if we go back into the code and we can go to index, for example, down in that footer nav region, what I've actually done is just put the iframe in here. This is from, I believe the website is facebookdeveloper.com. You can kind of dial in what you want it to do. Then, like with the other iframes, you just change your heights and things to make them fit where you want them to fit, height, width, etc. And then I've actually wrapped them in these classes to make them line up with within that row where I want it to sit, or the column, sorry, where I want it to sit, and that's what these two classes are here. So this is not just a URL, it's an actual plugin, and so what this means is when I hit like, it's actually going to put me onto my Facebook page, and all I have to do is hit like there. Likewise, obviously, share does the same thing. Oh, you want to share this, Ben? Here you go. Let me set it up for you. So that was an addition that we've made to it that obviously we haven't been shown how to do. YouTube is another plugin. This is not just a URL dump. This is actually a plugin in regards to you can play it right there on the screen, and then it will keep playing. And we can also go full screen if we want to. So that's a full plugin that works as well also. Obviously these bookmarks is something we haven't been shown in class, but something that I added in there. Another thing that I've done is this ability to actually click pre-request here on any page. At the moment we're on our community now, and I can hit pre-request. That's going to take us to the contact page and land us right where this prayer contact request is. And so that's a cool little navigation feature that I added into it. And same with where we are. You can click where we are and bring this this page up as well. On obviously on the code side of things, the plugins that we've used to make all this work. We have the Google Analytics here. We've got the keywords and the descriptions as well, which I've done according to what Google says, with the breaking up of a delimiter, so the prelude to what it is that you're talking about. So in other words, the Nelson Baptist New Pastor, the prelude to that is our stories. I've also done the long-tailed keywords, and followed the conventions that Google has said about that. I'm using the jQuery library in order to do the carousel or the slider on my page. This font awesome.min is actually for the slider, but I'm not utilizing it at the moment because I'm not having the words displayed on the slider out of choice, but that's there if I want to use it. It allows you to use the font that they think goes well with that slider. I'm running Bootstrap 4, and this is the link through here, obviously, and I'm actually running 2 different style sheets. The reason for that is just the way that I like to do it. In my CSS, I've got a normal style sheet. That's more for the content style, and then in my Bootstrap adjustments, that is a CSS that makes up for whatever I'm doing in Bootstrap. So when Bootstrap starts playing up, that's where I adjust things in there. So it's separated between the two. It could possibly be separated out a bit cleaner than what it is, but at the moment it's done that way, and I can follow it. I've also tried really hard to make sure that there's enough the way I've laid out my code is so I can follow it. And what I mean by that is I've got this convention here, start slideshow, and then down here, end of slideshow. And that's something that I've kind of carried over throughout all the code, or tried to anyway, start of nav bar, end of nav bar. So so that's basically how I've gone about my coding, and also if in the CSS, I've given it some explanation, especially in here. You'll see these are quite hard to word as intuitive. And what I mean by that is compensate navbar could mean a number of different things. So what I've done is I've explained this compensates for sticky navbar that automatically pulls all below it up under the navbar. So that I've explained what that does. Again, here this compensates the bookmarks that are out of alignment due to the sticky navbar change in the height. This brings a reference point of the map down 62%. This figure has been adjusted through trial and error. Basically, I kind of think that most people will be able to look at this and make sense of it all. So that's basically where I'm at. A whole bunch of different plugins. I'm well aware that the site is very basic, and to be honest, I was a bit against it at first, but now I'm kind of coming to like it. I like the fact it's clean, it's clear, it's what you want your skin to be. So I could have gone overboard with the fonts and the like, but I haven't. I've kept it very basic, and other than I've tightened up these pictures, given them a better quality pictures, so they look nice, they look good, and everything is working well, and so far so good. That's my week duty.